And now, your host, Couch Tomato!
Characters in the game. It's nothing special, but what I'm saying is, for the action scene, if I'm comparing, it's a PG-13 film.
Okay.
Right? And there's some parts that border, PG-13 and a half. Because it's certain thing. I know PG-13 laws and what you're able to show. And I know you get away with a lot when it comes to CGI on CGI violence.
Yeah.
But when it comes to human violence, I know you're not allowed to show blood, but there's a part where one of the soldiers gets his neck snapped.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
that's kind of
pretty
PG-16.
dark. Yeah, it's PG-14 and a half. So it's like, it's a PG-13 movie, but they cut out what they're supposed to cut out. But like I said, with PG-13, you're able to show CGI violence. Like that's why Transformers gets away with so much. But he basically cuts off the orc's balls. So I thought that was very ballsy, pun intended, to do in a PG-13 film. And that's why I was like, you don't necessarily need a lot of action, PD. That's a big statement.
Yeah. I agree. When you put it in that context, I get it.
It's gonna get a sequel because of what it's doing overseas, and it's so funny. Like I left the theater. When I left the theater, there weren't any rotten block that part out. There weren't any scores for that site that should not be named. And I was telling Hoke, I said, I think people are gonna like it.
This is 81 with the audience, 22 with the critics, but it's still early though.
Yeah,
it's still early.
It'll work.
Early.
It'll work its way down by Monday. Hey, how about this? So let's talk about does this movie? The big question is, does this movie deserve a sequel? I'm gonna let Hoke go first with the 5 minutes that you did see with this movie, Hoke. What do you believe this movie deserves a sequel, and why?
Yes, I think this movie had a tough hill to climb. You're coming after all the big comic book movies. You're trying to basically, re-energize a genre. And I think it did exactly what it needed to do. And you're doing well, internationally. You're doing well in the foreign box office. You beat Fast Furious 7. Fast and Furious is a huge franchise. And you're doing well in China.
Wow.
To me, that alone, tells you,
Asian
people are
love
hungry.
it.
Yeah, they're hungry for it. So, and like you said, in our crowd, they loved it. People who are fans of it are gonna like this movie.
PD.
Yes, sir.
Who's your favorite NBA player?
Right now?
Period.
Scottie Pippen, all time.
For real?
Yeah.
I always thought you were MJ with me.
No.
But, all right. I thought I knew you. I didn't, but it's whatever. So I'm still not a bad pick. Why isn't it Nat Sweetwater Clifton?
Who's Sweetwater Clifton?
Exactly.
Because it's a who?
This movie is Nat Sweetwater Clifton. Let me tell you why. For those that don't know, history lesson. Nat Sweetwater Clifton was the first. Nat Sweetwater Clifton and Earl Lloyd became the first African American players in the NBA. Right?
Oh.
However, when you think about the logo, you think about Jerry West, and when you think about the best player, you think about my guy, MJ. So it's like this movie isn't MJ. It's Nat Sweetwater Clifton. And what I mean by that, this movie is going to be the first movie that has some decency, legitimacy to actually. When it comes to video game franchises, you can't include Wreck-It Ralph. You can't include people versus Scott Pilgrim versus the World, because those weren't based off of actual video games. You know what I mean? So it's like this is going to be the first one that they took and added a direct adaptation, right? And it's going to actually set a precedent and actually open up a lot of inroads for other video game franchises to come. I'm not expecting this to be Michael Jordan. I'm expecting this to be Nat Sweetwater Clifton. Just don't embarrass us.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So it's like, but when I say that, this movie deserves a sequel. And I mean to say that because I'm like, when I looked at some of the issues I had with the film, a lot of people think I'm extremely fair when it comes to movies. That's why every time I say something like I don't like it, but so-and-so will like it, I always try to look in the eyes of my viewers or just peer groups who wouldn't necessarily gravitate with the movie automatically. And when I look at it through those eyes, even my eyes, I'm a guy who likes magic. I'm a guy who enjoys well done CGI. I'm a guy who enjoys interspecies relationships. You know what I mean? So it's like I condone it. I think it's fair. I think it's the year 2016. You know, I think man and alien should be able to get married and stuff like that. But that's just me. So when I actually look at it from that, I'm like, okay, this movie had a lot more to offer than Twilight did. This movie, I was bored at times. Hey, I was also bored at Hunger Games Part 3. I was bored at Hunger Games Part 3, Part 2, which is Hunger Games 4, a lot of times, you know? So it's like, but other than that, I'm not holding this to Harry Potter standards. I'm looking at this as a video game, and like Hulk said, it had a uphill battle. Like everybody roots for these films to fail. And the fact that it hit in the Chinese market, man, it shows a changing of the guard. This movie, it deserves a sequel. I think if you give the director confidence or the studio confidence that, look, we knocked it out of the ballpark with part 1, I think they'll be more competent with the material in part 2. So definitely, I think it deserves.
We need more.
Yeah,
especially
and
with
another
baby,
thing,
especially well, I call him Baby Moses. We need more. We need to see what's going on with that.
This movie had Moses in it. This movie had Gandalf in it. This movie had basically Twilight love affairs in it. This movie. It had a Zoe Saldana in it. It had this movie threw everything but the kitchen sink. And usually when movies do that, it fails. So like I said, it's a boring at times. But the parts where they fight, you're like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna give you another shot. And let's talk about one last thing, and then we'll just kind of close it there. This is a changing of the guard. America, we messed up. What I mean by that? You already started seeing Disney do it, and now all the other studios are following suit. This is a Universal film, but they're using Disney measures. You release it in America last, and you have a better chance of surviving.
Yep, because that China stuff, it changed the narrative, like as far as like the media.
I just don't. I don't like how critics they lift up something higher than it should be,
right?
And they beat up stuff lower than it should be. It's just it's the American way, you know. It's just because it's like we love drama more than we actually love praise. And what I mean by
like tomato,
and you like tomato,
potato,
potato,
tomato,
tomato.
let's go.